Nick Fuentes goes all in on voting for Gavin Newsom over JD Vance, quote, because he's handsome. This is not helping Nick Fuentes beat the closeted repressed bottom allegations. We got to check in with Nick Fuentes, the far-right extremist and online superstar all of a sudden out of nowhere, who is pretty open in his racial hatred. He openly is against race mixing and interracial marriage, yes, in the big 2025 and all these other things. And we talked about him most recently because of his kind of bizarre war against Vivek Ramaswamy, who is an America First pro-Trump Republican who is Indian and I believe is Hindu as well, and is running for the governor's office in Ohio as a Republican. Well, Nick has decided that the most important thing is not like having someone with many of his same beliefs and promoting America First or pro-Trump Republican ideas or any of the things you might expect, but instead is just going full scorched earth on him. And I did call that out. I want to just roll you guys a clip because then we're going to get into the fact that my one-sided, mostly beef with Nick Fuentes is making international news now. But first, I just want to roll y'all a clip so you know what I'm talking about. Here was my coverage of what Nick said. That did not go over well online with his fans. So here's that clip. So Nick is going after him and attacking him in just openly racist ways against Indians, so much so that he's cheering on the Democratic candidate, who is, of course, pro-abortion, pro-transitioning kids, pro all this stuff Nick says he finds evil, but, you got to stop the brown person, is basically his take. I'll just show you the clip so you don't think I'm strawmanning Nick's position here. Let's watch.
So this is the Vivek Ramaswamy speech. Like I said, I think I'm going to go to Ohio, and the word that we're looking for is denial. We have to deny Vivek Ramaswamy the governorship. This is the only race I care about in 26. It's the only one I care about.
Pause on that for a second. Nick Fuentes says he's conservative and wants to put America first. And with all these Democrats that he would, I think, and in some ways correctly, identify as radical, as reckless, open immigration policies, standing on transitioning minors, promoting abortion, all this stuff he's supposed to care about. His only race he cares about in 2026 is stopping an America First Republican candidate in Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy, because he's not white, not Christian, and doesn't believe in heritage Americans, which I view as almost a form of like white nationalist DEI. Where they want credit for things that they never did, right? And they want different classes of people based on immutable traits and in ancestry. No thank you from me and from Vivek, which is why I increasingly like Vivek and what he stands for and some of the stances he's taking. Count me in on that. But Nick no, that's the one race I care about. We got to stop this America First Republican from winning. And we have to even support the Democratic candidate, who of course he refers to as a Jew. That's a big issue for him too, of course. Let's listen.
I care about. People talk about, we got to keep the House and whatever. This is the race that I care about. This anchor baby cannot become the governor of Ohio. I don't care if it's a Jewish woman that wins.
Wow. How gracious of you. So guys, I got absolutely dragged by the groypers on Twitter for this, but I stand by it unequivocally. It is wrong to hate Indian people just because of their race or nationality. And if you are so driven to derangement by racial animus that you are promoting or supporting people who believe in all the things you're against just to stop somebody of the wrong race who you're pretending said all these terrible things about white people that he never actually said, yeah, that's ridiculous. That's absurd. And it is pathetic. But of course, I did not expect this to happen. My criticism of Nick Fuentes was picked up by international news outlets, including apparently one of the biggest newspapers in India, where I'm now a star. What can I say? I'm now an international Indian celebrity for standing up for Vivek. Here is the headline I came across from the Times of India. Racist end it ... I said sucks but they, for some reason, decided that needed to be like censored out. Podcaster Brad Polumbo slams Nick Fuentes for attack on, quote, anchor baby, Indian origin, Republican, Vivek Ramaswamy. They write, podcaster and political commentator Brad Polumbo slammed white far-rightist Nick Fuentes. I like that term, far-rightist, because we would say like a leftist, but we don't really say rightist, over his remarks against anchor baby Vivek Ramaswamy and called him, quote, racist. Fuentes, in his recent podcast, called out Indian origin Republican leader Ramaswamy and asked him to go back to India, and even asked people in Ohio to not vote for him as he is standing for governorship. I'll just point out for clarity's sake that actually Vivek is a born U.S. citizen. He's of Indian heritage, but he is a born U.S. citizen. So he's not even like an Indian national or anything. And even then, I wouldn't be against him, but still, you understand what I'm saying. So I do actually find it amusing. I assumed that this was some like random Indian website. And then some of my friends pointed out to me that it's actually one of the biggest media outlets in all of India. And I'm like, wow, okay, we're making waves here with our stand against the far right and their extreme racial animus and bigotry. And it's funny because I, for years, was pushing back during peak woke in 2020 in the Biden administration against all of this toxic far left identitarian stuff where they were having like race-based COVID programs that white people were ineligible for. They were openly saying, I'm only going to appoint a black person for this job. And all along my message was that actually we're all Americans and we should treat race as, we should at least aspire towards colorblindness. Obviously, no one is colorblind. We do all have in-group, out-group biases to some extent, but we should aspire towards that, and we should absolutely enshrine colorblind meritocracy into policies and into our political system. And so I was pushing back on the left for years, but now the far-right extremist push is honestly even more brazenly embracing identity politics, where it's like they are saying things like, oh, we need to support the guy with the white wife over the guy with the brown wife. Nothing to do with when it comes to potentially J.D. Vance versus Gavin Newsom. Nothing to do with their policies, their vision for America, but again, an identity-obsessed, race-obsessed worldview that's like actually even worse. And so I'm proud that we took this stand. It, of course, did not go over well on Twitter. God knows if I care about that. I don't respect their opinion at all. But this one, I'll put this on screen here because I found it funny. This one big Groyper account, Grimaldis, tweeted at me, Brad Polumbo, shake hand emoji, Indians, being into poo. I guess I'm not even sure what that's a reference to. Actually, I am sure, but it's just gross and it doesn't even make sense. Indians aren't in fact into poo. There's this stereotype as if they're like all Indian people are just filthy and disgusting, because of course, you know, India is a country with I think 1 billion people, and some of them live in absolute poverty where of course there's going to be horrific hygiene, but many of them do not. And more importantly, Indians in America, whether they are immigrants or whether they are Indian American, like US citizens, don't have any of that. They have perfectly normal hygiene. It's all just made up, and it's all just a nasty stereotype. And then of course, suggesting that gay people are into poo isn't true, in fact, and it suggests you don't know very much about how things work. I like this other comment. You're a traitor to your country. To me. Yes, because what? Because I said we shouldn't racially discriminate against Indian American citizens running for office. You got me there. You got me there. Someone else said the diarrhea horde was always on your side, queer. They really do. Like, I can tweet about anything and have nothing to do with gay stuff or LGBT or me being gay, and they always bring it up. It's like a weird trigger and obsession that the Groypers have. And what makes it so funny is that Nick Fuentes faces so many gay allegations, and that's their leader. That's their icon. But yet they're obsessed with the sexuality of critics like me. Now, I want to talk about this because this is not helping Nick Fuentes beat the closeted, repressed bottom allegations, okay? Because he just said that he agrees with the bizarre sentiment from some of these streamers that you should decide your loyalty based on how hot a male politician is for who you're going to vote for. Seriously, that's where they're at. Here's the Mediaite headline. Nick Fuentes goes all in on voting for Gavin Newsom over JD Vance, quote, because he's handsome. White supremacist and MAGA influencer Nick Fuentes went all in over the weekend on supporting California Governor Newsom over Vice President JD Vance because Newsom is more, quote, handsome. Fuentes, who has regularly attacked Vance in the past, calling him childish names like gay and fat, posted to social media on Sunday, "Physiognomy is real. Post-physique, it's Handsome Thursday. I only believe in beauty and aesthetics. JD Vance equals fat subhuman. Newsom mogs him to death. I would vote for him 100x over just because he's handsome." So there's really no other way to say it. This is just incredibly silly. Now, it's hard to know how serious they're being versus how much they're trolling because these types, they do this mask on, mask off, like jester routine where sometimes they're just joking or just trolling, but also they kind of believe that or maybe a slightly less extreme version of it. And so even when they say things like Nick Fuentes has in the past said, "Oh, I'll support Gavin Newsom over JD Vance because JD Vance has brown kids and Gavin Newsom has a nice white family," as if that's like not psychotic and evil when it actually is. And as if any of that is relevant. On one hand, you have somebody, so say that you're like a Republican, you lean right, you're more conservative in your values like Nick Fuentes claims to be. You have somebody who governed California and stood on business on all sorts of progressive insanity, from transitioning kids to self-ID in bathrooms to very, very, very unrestricted abortion access to massive welfare policies for immigrants and so much more. Or then you have JD Vance, who's a lot closer to your views, even if it's not perfectly aligned. And you're going to be like, no, but he's hot and he's not hot. So I got to vote for the hot guy. Is that not the gayest thing you've ever heard? In like in the literal sense, not in the using gay to say dumb. Your priorities are weird. Me as a gay man, I don't care as much about male aesthetics as these supposed traditionalist heterosexual Christian men. It's genuinely bizarre. And even to the extent that it's just trolling, it's just so remarkably unserious. And yet millions of people tune into these folks as if they have some sort of insight to offer us. They really don't. Even Nick Fuentes, who I do admit is very funny, very smart, he's decided to use that for evil and to really push toxic, extreme, hate-fueled narratives in incredibly dishonest and divisive ways, and sometimes in just ways that are downright stupid, like saying what really matters is not what candidate's vision aligns best for America first, but who mogs who. Welcome to 2025, I guess, where everything is a joke. That's my take on this. You can write me up anytime, Times of India. I will gladly tweet out your articles because I find that hilarious, and I await my stadium tours of adoring Indian fans. You guys let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button. And remember, the #1 way to support the show is to become a channel member on YouTube to help me keep staying independent, not have to pander to one side, just punch left always or punch right always to build up a loyal audience and manipulate the YouTube algorithm. No, it's having members that helps me stay independent and bring you honest content rather than pandering and still keep my head above water financially. So please, if you're able to, consider becoming a channel member on YouTube. You'll unlock free, ad-free episodes, full episodes early of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast on YouTube, and you'll help support my work. So please consider doing that if you can. Anyway, though, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada, yada.